So I do an after show.
Okay.
And I know you're going to know where this came from because you have the theater gene.
Okay.
And I have an after show that is called Last Call.
Okay.
And it's inspired by Inside the Actor's Studio.
Oh, cool.
So, all the questions that James Lipton used to ask his guests, I have taken inspiration from those and made them pet related.
Okay.
So, I ask all of my guests these 11 questions, and I'm going to ask you today. Number one, what is your favorite breed?
I can't just say mutt.
You certainly can. You can say whatever you want. There's no rule that you can't.
Anything mixed with the Pyrenees is kind of my go-to right now.
You know,
Yeah.
I have to link in comments. I follow Brian somebody or other. There's a dog called Brian and Brianna who are Great Pyrenees, and they're absolutely beautiful, and like the mom and dad are like really into like dad jokey stuff, and they make memes with Brian in them, and they're really really funny, and I've kind of fallen in love with Great Pyrenees because of these dogs. They're actually stunning dogs.
Yeah, that's Leo's main breed is Great Pyrenees. And there's no, unfortunately, there's no like shortage of Great Pyrenees needing rescue. There's lots of homeless Great Pyrenees. They have a lot of the great qualities I love in the Bernese Mountain Dog. And like the fluffiness, the general neutralness, all that kind of good stuff. But they're just easily rescuable. So that's more of like an easy avenue for me.
But they're big dogs.
Yeah. So also they're big, which is like my thing. I love a big dog. So.
How big will Leo get?
I don't know, because he's a large part Great Pyrenees, and he's husky. I did the DNA test. He's husky and he's lab. All of the DNA test I got does like the relatives, like other dogs that are related to him show up, and they're all Pyrenees, like all pure Pyrenees. So I guess those are the people that do the test. He's like 60 pounds right now, and he's turning a year in a couple days. I would say he's probably going to end up the same weight as Poncho. He's probably going to be about, or maybe even like Harley. Harley was about 80 pounds. So he's probably going to be anywhere between 70 and 80 pounds. He's just going to get thicker. I don't foresee him getting too much taller, but
yeah, they'll just thicken. At this point, he'll just thicken out.
Yeah, I'd be fine. I love a big dog. So bring it on.
All right. Least favorite breed.
Okay. I will go with the one that I feel more uncomfortable with because I have very little experience in handling is a Chihuahua. Although I've met amazing Chihuahuas, and Hillary, the person I work with closely at Nova Pets Alive, is a Chihuahua person, and she loves to pull Chihuahuas. She has a bunch of Chihuahuas. She understands little dog stuff. I've just never really gotten to understand little dog stuff. So I just feel like whenever I'm doing their intakes, I'm like, ooh, like give me a giant, big old thing any day, but like a little one, I guess their body language isn't as clear to me. They're smaller, it's not as pronounced, and I feel like people constantly violate their space, so they're more particular to having to communicate, don't pick me up, or don't touch me. So I feel like they're usually over it more quickly. But I've also met amazing Chihuahuas, like amazing, wonderful, sweet babies. So, that's just the one, when I get them through my door at intake, I'm like, ooh, I'm nervous.
You respect their space more because they will tell you but you know what? They're a Latin breed, and Latinas and Latinos, we're kind of like, we'll tell you when you're invading our space. Like we will tell you into your face. We will not like mince words about you overstepping our boundaries. So maybe they just have it in their blood. I've only been bit by like 2 dogs ever, and they were very minor bites, and one of them was a Chihuahua. So I agree with you. I always like handle with care, and it was and I got bit because I was kind of like cradling the dog in like a baby way, and the dog just didn't know me well enough. This was years and years and years ago, and the dog didn't know me well enough, and it was like, why are you squeezing me? Like, leave me be. Like, just don't. So next question, do your pets sleep in your bed?
They did, and then I had a kid, and she slept in my bed for a while, and Poncho is the one that would sleep in the bed, and he it's just too risky. Like, he can't be in the bed at the same time. What if she wakes up and, whatever. She's more in her own bed now, but I'm actually going through a weird thing of not knowing if I want him out in case she wakes up and opens the door and scares him. So he's crated at night. Harley and now Leo are very similar in that I want them to sleep with me on the bed, but they're too hot. So they want to sleep by themselves next to a fan. If we let Lacey sleeps out in the house at night. And if she wanted to, we would. She's a great sleeper. But she's deaf and she gets startled really easily. So she's more comfortable sleeping on her own or in a crate. So they totally can. We don't have rules against it, but it's just, we've kind of evolved into really not doing it.
Yeah. Again, dogs and kids in beds in the middle of the night with,
Yep.
A recipe for disaster. Who or what wakes you up in the morning?
Who or what wakes me up in the morning? Leo, because he's very, he's, how huskies are really vocal and they're like, he does that when he's ready to go, go downstairs. Yeah.
When he's ready to go potty.
Start whining and talking. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
This is a really good one. You're the first dog trainer I've had on this show. So this is a question I've asked a million people. They're all pet pros, but none of them are dog trainers. What's your most used training command or cue?
Most used. I mean, well, you can go with the inevitable sit. Everyone uses that like 3 million times a day. That I use when I work with any dog to kind of see how what they know, and then also just like how in the space to work they are, because you usually throw like an easy one in there, and if they're not willing to sit, they're probably not willing to do much else. But in working with dogs, my favorite and that I find most useful is touch, which is hand targeting, having a dog target their nose into a hand. It's a great way to do so many things, including move a dog through a room without forcing them to go. Great for recall, great for loose leash walking. It's the most versatile cue. So
great for not having them sniff people inappropriately.
Correct. It's a great for teaching polite introductions. Yes.
Yeah. Like sniff my hand, not that crotch, right? Mm-hmm. What is your least used training command or cue?
Heel.
You don't never use that?
Mm-mm. I don't think it's natural. I don't think, because if you think about it, we walk much slower than dogs do. And so it's really frustrating for them to walk at the same pace as us a lot of the time. To ask them to constantly be right exactly here is a lot of work. It's constant work. And we need to be able to give our dogs breaks from working. So when I work with dogs, I work to develop a zone of reinforcement of where like, this is where you get paid. And I'm going to be encouraging frequent check-ins. So if you want to hang out here, that's fine. But I think there's a fine line between training and like forced obedience. And when we force our dogs to be just obedient all the time, we're not really like letting them be themselves or like not work. Like we don't want to work all the time. Dogs love walks. Why should we make them like work really hard to stay at our pace the entire time,
I love that. Very true. What pet related noise do you love?
So funny that you asked that, because we just did the intake with all these new cats and dogs, and I discovered the best sound for photos to get their attention, right? Because normally you go like or like
No, not you, not other people. Oh. You do that noise, and you get really good pictures because of that noise.
Oh, they went, no, that's not the question. Yes, that's what I do. And that's like when because we're taking the pictures at intake for their adoption, right? So we want to get clear photos. So we're like we're doing all these crazy noises. And I found
it's so funny that you're doing that, because that is such a Beth sound to me. Like if I hear that, like if ever you're held hostage somewhere and I'm going to ask and like you call me for help, I'm going to be like, what's that noise you make when taking pictures of dogs? And if the person doesn't answer that, then I know it's not you, not because that's not easy to recreate.
No, it's definitely ingrained in me.
And I'm going to make like a GIF of it.
Yeah, so you like learn all these crazy like sounds to make to get them to look at you. So like you imagine intake, these dogs are stressed. They're from the shelter. They've been on the road for 8 hours. They're so overwhelmed. It's hard to reach them. And cats too. And I started doing this new sound, and the girl I was working with I started using that sound too. And it's the best sound to get their attention. You ready?
I'm ready.
Here's what it is. whatever. It'll get them to look at you.
Wait, can you do that? Can you do that again, please?
No, because you're gonna you're gonna use it, and I'm not it. But it's like panting, like do a panting dog, and I will literally have a dog that's super hyped, and they'll be like, "What?" And I'm like, "There we go, picture right there."
That's awesome. What is your least favorite pet related noise?
Oh, oh gosh, what's the word? What's the one they do? They go like,
You don't like that?
like a correction noise. I don't like it, only because I feel like people expect a dog to know what that means, and a lot of the time they don't. So they're just making noises, and the dog's going, "What the hell?" Sorry.
And then you end up like the dog being like, ah!
Yeah,
Because the dog's not getting the and you're like super desperate for them to listen. Yeah, I do that with my children. It doesn't work very well either.
no, I mean, it can. It's an interrupter. So like, I certainly do it. But I think when people use it in terms of like, this is a training tool, it's not.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, so you've been in the pet industry for a long time. You've had a lot of roles within the pet industry. What pet-related profession, other than your current profession, would you like to have?
I think I'd like to just do my rescue work for pay.
Well, you can, I guess. You could be like a consultant to the stars when they're adopting a dog.
I guess. Yeah, I could.
Or to
Something
very
like,
wealthy people who are willing to pay like $500 for like a consultation at the shelter or whatever.
yeah, I think that I would love to do that. I would also, I'm really passionate about people understanding how to socialize their puppies. I think we need to focus on that to start bringing in like a wave of socialized dogs that aren't getting returned for behavior problems down the road. So creating some kind of resources, like kind of being like, some kind of position training adjacent where I provide resources to people to make it more accessible and make it more understandable. Like that would be like my dream to get in.
You would be like the puppy guru.
Something like that, yeah. Which feels silly because I love adult and senior dogs. They're like my favorite. But I'm seeing all these adult dogs that like don't have to have these problems they do, and they did because the people just like never exposed them to anything. And then like they're like, oh, well, they're difficult, and they like throw them away.
But it's really not that hard. It's really not that weird, right? Like when we think about how we're raising our children, we're trying to we're focusing our efforts right now on raising people that will eventually be independent and contributors to society, and the first few years are so critical in that, right? So why would it be different for pets? Like those first few years, apart from it's like nature versus nurture, right? Like yeah, they're born with their personality, but a lot of that like nurture will derail their socialization or encourage it. So for sure, I love that. I think you should totally be the puppy guru. I will never come to you because I'm not a puppy person. I don't honestly know
I'm not either.
But you are for somebody else's puppies though, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so like because you recognize how hard it is to have a puppy.
Right. It's hard.
It is hard, and it's like having an infant. And so having the experience you have, you can be like, this is what your puppy needs. Just like as the mom of a 2-year-old, you can say to the mom of a newborn, like, this is what your newborn is telling you because you've been there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Even though everybody's an individual, there are some things that are like kind of like telltale, and it's only with experience that you can like sniff that out.
Right.
What pet related profession would you never like to have?
To tie veterinarian or the dog walkers in New York that walk 3,000 dogs at the same time.
Pack walkers.
Yeah. You could not pay me enough money to do that ever.
I agree. And again, you have the experience to know why. Like that is so risky, and it's
so risky.
So much going on. And obviously we've never done it. We don't live in New York. We don't know New York dogs. Maybe they're just a different type of dog, but yeah, it looks pretty dangerous. And veterinary, why not veterinary?
What a thankless, stressful job for such little pay and so much schooling. With constantly having to deal with some of the worst days of those animals' lives. And they're never really excited to come see you. So that's what I loved about being at the Wag Pack, and then also being at the doggy daycare in general. Like we're the best part of their day. Like they love us.
100%.
I don't want a dog to be scared of me, in that, worrisome. And that's not a vet's fault. That's just, unfortunately, they're gonna be a little invasive. There's amazing vets out there that have found their ways to be as positive and fear-free. But yeah, it's just the amount, the suicide rate with vets, and it's just too hard. And nobody gives them the credit that they deserve. So
absolutely. Any pet parents watching this, please take it easy on your vets. They're not out to get your money. They're not out to screw you over. They're literally doing the hardest job in the pet industry. Mm-hmm. Maybe the only other people that rival that job is cat groomers.
Oh, that's another one. I wouldn't.
Definitely not. And that's a hard job, and they definitely don't make enough money either. So last question. We're going to get a little introspective here. That's why I call it last call, because we've had a drink and we're feeling a little more touchy-feely or gooey. If the Rainbow Bridge exists, who is the first pet to greet you when you arrive?
I mean, I would say he's the most recent one to pass.
You have to choose one that greets you there, like the cruise director that meets you at the door.
Mm-hmm. I guess Harley, my Bernese Mountain Dog, Harley. Yeah, it's been, even though I've had other pets for very long that I love very much, but there's something, those are all cats, or a dog I had very, very short amount of time. There's something about a dog that, I don't know, you can imagine that meeting to be very excited.
And Harley is I knew Harley, so Harley's spirit is that I'm gonna go meet her. I'm gonna go see her. Everybody, she's coming. Everybody, I'm gonna go see her. We'll be right back. I want you to meet her. So he's that sweet energy that would be so excited. So
although to counteract that, if you want to get introspective, I actually do believe that Leo is him reincarnated. I think so. When I took Leo out of the crate, I knew we were getting him. I had seen his pictures. It wasn't I was oh, this puppy's really cute. I knew they were going to puke. Never been tempted in my life to keep a dog that I've done at intake. I'm go on, bye-bye. Mm-hmm. I took him out of the carrier and I looked at him, and the first thing in my head was Harley. And he doesn't look like Harley except for he's fluffy. And I had siblings. I put him in there, and I brought Gerald down, and I said, we have to foster one tonight. Which one? And he chose another one. And I said, no, we got to do this one. And because I was this is Harley. And he is exactly like Harley in so many ways. He does the same quirks, the same things. He likes the same stuff. We say it all the time.
Harley's already ready. He's already working again.
I think so. Or we either say it's him reincarnated or he's the advisor. He picked Leo out and sent him to us.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I believe that.
Yeah. It's one of those two.
So Gerald believes this too? Which one does Gerald believe? That he's the advisor or that it's him reincarnated?
He laughs when I say it's Harley reincarnated. But we always say oh, did Big Brother tell you to do that? To the point where we're in the car, he puts his head on my shoulder, which Harley always did. He wants to sleep on the pillow when he's on the bed, which is what Harley always did. He is great with all dogs, which I know it's not necessarily typical. The thing about him going to Dogtopia and being amazing there, Amanda, the girl who worked there, went, it's he's been coming here the whole time, his whole life. So it's just little quirks, little moments that you go, that was Harley, for sure. So aww. I don't know. So I think he thinks he's the advisor. He told him hey, they'll really laugh if you do this or something.
I love it. Cause Gerald's more the type, what is it? The left-sided brain, right? Less a believer in the supernatural, mm-hmm. less woo-woo and more science, evidence-based, blah, blah, boring stuff. So I think that's cool that he thinks that he's open to the idea of it being his advisor.
Yeah, I think so.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story and your self with me. Obviously, we've known each other for a really long time, so I kind of anticipated some of these answers, but even then, I've gotten to know you just a little bit better by asking you these questions. So thank you again, and I will have you back on the show soon so we can dig a little deeper, maybe into rescue or something, or maybe into COVID dogs once things reopen and we can actually let our dogs out to see. Let our dogs be dogs. Let our toddlers be toddlers.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Beth.
Thank you for having me.